What is up everyone, and welcome to some more F1 22 My Team career mode. This time we're at the Monaco Grand Prix. That's right, it's time for one of my least favourite races on the calendar. One that I always struggle with immensely. Just can't seem to get the car hooked up around the track no matter how much I try. You know, I see these YouTubers out here who are quite good at this track, and they find it quite easy to find sort of a flow around here and really hit a balance. I am not one of those people whatsoever. I really struggle, so it's, you know, to even score points here would be amazing. I got points here in my previous season when the car wasn't maybe quite as strong as it is now, which is at least a good sort of indictment of the idea that we might be able to score points again. So if we can sort of get P8, P9, I think that would be some pretty good damage limitation for the fact that, you know, it's Charles Leclerc's home race, and he's one of our biggest championship contenders right now. So we're going to have him to compete with over the course of the season, and at his home race, I'm sure he's going to really turn things on to a new level. I'm currently just perusing the sponsor bonuses, seeing if there's anything I particularly am liking the look of, and there wasn't really anything that I was particularly enthusiastic about. I think in the end, I go back to this one, the P10 or better one, which I had as a sponsor in the previous season, but I sacked off because I thought it was too straightforward. But now I think getting into Q3 is a necessity, so I should be targeting that pretty much every race. And yeah, apart from that, there really weren't that many things that were jumping out to me as something that we could definitely do. So I went for this one, which is beating my rival during a race. And so, in other words, finishing ahead of Carlos Sainz in a race at the moment, which I think we are probably capable of doing. And I don't know if it includes qualifying or if it's just the race. I think it said in the race, but I don't know. These targets are all kind of jank in this game, so I wouldn't be surprised if there was some twist in the tail. Nonetheless, we're now ready to progress through the weekend and get ready to actually get into the race weekend proper. We are actually at 8 million, but I will spoil things for you slightly now and say I didn't notice that we were at 8 million cash until the very end of the race. So the facility upgrade will not be coming on until next video at the earliest, as a result of me making that error where I didn't notice. So yeah, no more error upgrades that can be put on the car for the time being, but going forward we will unlock quite a few more, which we will be able to do, you know, in maybe not in Azerbaijan, but in Canada and in Austria and France and all the races that are coming up soon enough. And yeah, we hopefully should be able to max out our aero, perhaps by sort of Belgium or Zandvoort or something like that would be the ideal. Remember, there's no Hungarian Grand Prix this season because we've removed it from the calendar in favour of some tracks that weren't on the 2022 calendar, such as China and Portugal. So we did practice, and the pace was a bit of a question mark. I wasn't really sure, like, whether this was good or, you know, Schwartzman was ahead of us, Magnussen was ahead of us, but then we were ahead of some of the other drivers that we would want to be ahead of, like Norris, Sainz. Leclerc was fastest, but not by much. And yeah, what really matters is that we just get all of those resource points, we max those out, because we're still trying to develop the car. And more than anything, now at this point, when we've got so many upgrades, a regulation change at the end of the season could be crippling. And it feels weird that we're even talking about it, but this is actually the 8th race of the season, believe it or not. You know, the season is kind of creeping up on us a little bit in terms of how quickly it's going. We're almost halfway through it already. And yeah, before you know it, we will be at the end of the season and potentially looking at some regulation changes, or, you know, some driver retirements, maybe, you know, some sort of changes in the pecking order if we can develop the car a bit more. But honestly, at the moment, the car development is entirely based on how much cash flow we've got. So we basically need to be bringing in as much money as we possibly can, and the only way to do that really is to just finish as high in the constructors standings as we possibly can. And how things are looking this season, unless we have a massive turn of form, we are going to be limited to P5 in the Constructors' Championship, I reckon. I think there's a good chance of us beating Alpine this season. We've currently got about double the points they've got. So if we can sort of keep up that momentum, we should be comfortably able to finish ahead of them. But anyone else, McLaren, Ferrari, Red Bull, Mercedes, I think are going to be too hard to touch. Do our first flying lap of Q1, and it's a 111.7, I should say. And then we go again and we improve by another few tenths. And it's good enough to get us into Q2 quite comfortably. It's P11 in the end. So yeah, I was pretty happy with that, but we will need to improve a little bit if we want to make it into Q3, which is my sort of target for this race weekend. Norris fastest on this occasion, but Sainz and Leclerc right up there with him. And also a few other cars kind of in the mix as well. For those of you who aren't really clued in, I'm currently sort of locked in a championship fight with Norris and Leclerc, and Carlos Sainz is my rival, so those are the three drivers I'm paying the most attention to. As for my teammate, Enzo Fittipaldi, I just kind of let him do whatever he wants. We do a 112.0 on our first flying lap of Q2, but that is on a used set of softs, so we should be able to improve quite comfortably. And indeed we do. We actually set a purple Sector 2 on a fresh set of tyres, and it's good enough for a 111.2, which, is that good enough for Q3? Ooh, it just is. So yeah, we made it through to Q3. So now I don't really care what happens, to be perfectly honest. Just as long as we can finish the race, that's all I'm really particularly fussed about. But I guess we'll see what happens. I think Fittipaldi was already out by this point anyway, but we will just have a quick look. Yeah, he got eliminated in Q1. Ricciardo, maybe the only shock retirement of Q2, especially considering I don't know how Gasly manages to drag that AlphaTauri as far up the grid as he does, but he does it so consistently that I can't help but be impressed. We now come on to our first flying lap of Q3, and we're on a used set of softs again. It's a 111.5, so it's actually a pretty good run for a used set. But we improve again on our second set. We've actually come out a little bit earlier than everyone else this time because it looked like it might rain toward the end of the session. So I just tried to get my fresh softs on as quickly as I possibly could. And yeah, we don't have a great Sector 3, which is a shame because we were almost a second up at one point. But we lose quite a few tenths to the final sector, and in the end it's good enough for a 110.9. It puts us P5. And nobody else comes out for the rest of the session, which means we stay P5 at Monaco.
Hamilton and Carlos Sainz. Goodbye for now then, but really we're just getting started. Make sure to join us again for Lights Out tomorrow.
Yeah, that was beyond my wildest dreams of us getting P5, but the reason it happened was because of the rain coming at the end of the session meant that no one else could improve their times because the track was just a tiny bit too wet. And so we kind of preempted the rain and yeah, managed to get to P5. If we'd have had a good Sector 3 on that final lap, we could have been looking at even P3 or something like that. It was the best lap I drove all weekend, and I saved it for the most opportune time to do it as well. So yeah, that was a bit of a blinder that I played there. But, you know, it's far from over. Points aren't handed out on Saturdays, so we've still got a job to do. There's still a race to get on with. If we can just consolidate P5, that would be perfect. You know, it doesn't even matter. You know, even if we lose a position or two, I'm still going to be happy about the fact that we scored a decent chunk of points. What is perhaps most surprising was Charles Leclerc all the way down in P9, but perhaps he was waiting to put in his best lap. But he's going to have to be waiting another year now if he wants to get that coveted win at Monaco. I know he didn't get it last year, but I can't remember if he got it in Season 1 or not. So, yeah, we'll have to go back and look at that one at some point to determine whether he's actually ever won his home race or not. Feels like he never gets the luck that he needs around this place. You know, he's just sort of serially unlucky at Monaco, and yeah, now it is time for us to get into the race.
Formula One returns to Monte Carlo once again today, home to the world famous Monte Carlo Casino that first opened in 1863. And of course, a certain road race first held in 1929. There's no greater an occasion, no more valuable a win than the Monaco Grand Prix. The prestigious Circuit de Monaco, then, is not all that dissimilar today to the layout that made its debut almost a century ago. It's 2 miles and 19 corners through the streets of Monte Carlo. And although the average lap speed of around 93 miles per hour is the lowest of the season, the tiny margins for error make it the natural habitat of the safety car. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris will lead us away from pole position, and it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Sainz, Russell, Robinson, and Fernando Alonso. Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, and Alex Albon. Magnussen, Joe, Esteban Ocon, and Mick Schumacher. Tsunoda, Gasly, Enzo Fittipaldi, and Lance Stroll. Lundgaard, Latifi, Schwartzman, and Daniel Ricciardo fills the last spot on the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Oh, nothing to say on this occasion, I guess. So I'm filling time. Oh, okay. No, it wasn't too bad. Daniel Ricciardo trying to do his best to make McLaren a one-car team. I don't know why you would take a penalty in Monaco unless you absolutely have to, because that is just stupid. What I don't get what the incentive of taking a penalty in Monaco is. There's no overtaking here apart from maybe you could make a place or two on the first lap, but there's no way he's going to get back into the points with that, surely. I would be amazed if he does. But yeah, we're sort of optimistic about this race at this point. I think as long as we can get a decent start, hold on to position, see if we can maybe hold off Alonso, I'll be very happy with where we are, because I think I can defend position for the rest of the race after that. As long as wherever I am on lap 1, I think I can hold on to that position for the rest of the race. So the grid is formed up, and now we're ready, and the lights come on, and the lights go out, and we're going to switch instantly to replay view. And you see I have had a pretty decent start compared to the Mercedes, who both started on hards. They've had an awful start, in fact, and Alonso has jumped both of them as well. So me and him started 5th and 6th, and we're up to 3rd and 4th already. So yeah, they may have not played the right strategy starting on hards there, to be honest, but maybe they'll be able to come back into the race later on. After everyone has stopped, they'll be able to hold everyone up for a little bit. I almost ran into the back of Sainz there, and I think we're going to go up the inside of him here at the hairpin. Yeah, we are. And he actually stops for a second there. I'm not really sure why he did that, but it's caused a bit of a pile-up with a few smashed front wings and things like that. And now you're going to see that it's resulted in a deployment of a safety car. So, yeah, it took less than a lap for there to be a safety car. I don't know why Sainz stopped on track there. There was definitely enough room for him to keep going, but he chose to just completely stop his car, and that seems to have triggered a safety car. But yeah, we're up into P2 at the Monaco Grand Prix. That is quite remarkable, really. And like I said, I do think I really have a chance of holding on to this position. Under the safety car now, and we're riding on board with Kevin Magnussen. Well, we're focusing on Kevin Magnussen with the camera, and yeah, that is smoke pouring out the back of his engine, and his Monaco Grand Prix coming to an abrupt end on lap 4, right as the safety car is restarting. So yeah, unfortunate for him, but he's not having a great season overall in that Aston Martin. I definitely think it's one of the flop moves of the season, him to Aston Martin. To be fair, I don't think any of the moves I've seen have really made too much of a difference. Apart from that one, Magnussen was scoring points consistently last season in that Haas. You know, he was a legit sort of contender in some of those races for sort of P8, P7, those kinds of positions. He even got a podium in a few races, if I'm not mistaken. And that Aston Martin is the worst car on the grid. So yeah, he's suffering quite a lot with that, unfortunately. But you know, we've resumed the race now. No more safety car, and Norris has already pulled out a gap of over 2 seconds. But I anticipated this would happen. But we are now under pressure from Carlos Sainz, and I think we're going to just about hold him off for the time being. But yeah, that is probably going to be the story of my race now, is being under pressure from Carlos Sainz for the rest of the Grand Prix, if I had to guess, because you know, I've never had the best pace around Monaco, and I don't envision that is going to start today. Lap 11 moving into lap 12 now, and he's pressuring us once again. I think he's a little bit closer on this occasion. Yeah, we're actually going to go wheel to wheel through Saint-Avold, which is not a place you can easily go wheel to wheel through. And now as we come on the run up the hill, you see that he's actually gotten ahead of me. But as we come around whatever that corner's called, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, we actually managed to get him back. I don't know if you guys remember that move that Esteban Gutierrez pulled off in the wet in that same position, where he went round the outside of, I think it might have been Maldonado or someone like that. That was somewhat reminiscent of that. It's a very hard corner to overtake at, but yeah, he somehow managed it. This is George Russell we're looking at now. I guess we'll never find out how his hard compound strategy played out, because his car has also packed in and will not be taking part in any further laps in this Monaco Grand Prix. So that's unfortunate for him, but you know, yeah, I think he hasn't had a DNF yet this season, so you know, maybe he was slightly overdue one. I've had one. I know that Leclerc and Norris have both had them, so yeah, it's pretty likely. I actually make a bit of contact here with Sainz now as we're on to lap 14, and yeah, there wasn't really enough room for us to go through there. But somehow we've managed to stay ahead of him for the time being, although I think he's going to attack us back as we come on the run down to the hairpin. And yeah, this is a very heated scrap that this is turning out to be. I was very concerned I was going to have damage there, but I think we've just about managed to escape scot-free, no damage. So yeah, hopefully we've been able to resist the brunt of Sainz's attacks for the time being. And as on lap 17 we come into the pits, you can see that we managed to hold him off at least until the pit stop phase. He's staying out though, and now this is where it gets really nervy, because the AI, I can hold them up until the cows come home on this track. But do I have the pace to contend with Sainz when he's driving in clear air, even when I'm on fresh hard tyres? This is the million-dollar question, because I have no idea whether he is just going to start sailing off into the sunset now, and by the time he comes into the pits in maybe a lap or two, he'll suddenly be 2-3 seconds in front of me. We move on now to lap 19, and you can see he's coming out of the pits, and we are pretty close with him, but I think, yeah, we have just about managed to stay ahead of him for the time being. So yeah, that was nervy, because even if he had cold tyres, if he'd have come out ahead of us, it would have been really hard to get ahead of him. But because he's the one with the cold tyres and we've just about come out ahead of him, we can now start building a gap of over a second to him as he heats up his tyres. It's pretty quick heating up your tyres at Monaco, because it is so jam-packed with corners that by this point he's probably got them mostly warmed up, and we can start getting ready for him to close me down again. And now we move on to lap 21 going into lap 22. Hamilton, who was on the alternate strategy, has also pitted, and we'll see where he comes out. It's going to be close between him and Leclerc by the looks of things, but I think he has just managed to get that P5. So yeah, not a great race for him really. He started second if I'm not mistaken, and now he's all the way down in P5. But you know, maybe on the fresh tyres he can try and do something to Alonso. We'll have to wait and see. Lap 28, and we are now back within Carlos Sainz's DRS range. But as I've said before, catching is one thing, and passing is a very different thing indeed. So yeah, we can probably still hold him off, I reckon. You know, we've got the pace in the car that it took him 6 laps to even move within a second of us when he was 2 seconds behind us. So maybe my pace wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was around here, because I was thinking to myself, oh yeah, this is going to be a really tough race. You know, I'm going to be under constant threat from the cars around me. I'm going to be defending into Saint-Avold every lap, like my life depends on it. And that has just been so far from the truth. Lap 35 is about to come up now, and you can see he hasn't really made any progress since then. He's still just kind of stuck behind me, not really giving me any kind of challenge. And yeah, this has turned out to be a Monaco beyond my wildest dreams. When I qualified P5, I thought that was going to be the height of the weekend. And somehow we've managed to turn it around to get 18 points if we can hold on to this position for just a few more laps. Lando Norris wins with fastest lap if this keeps up the way that it's going at the moment, and I guess that's okay. But it does mean I'm not entirely sure what's going to shake out in the championship. I think we'll get ahead of Leclerc again because we're outscoring him by about 10 points. But as we come around onto lap 39 now, you see that Norris has won and probably retained fastest lap unless anyone can snatch it from him at the death. It won't be me, that's for sure and certain, but it could be one of the cars a little further afield as we come around the final few corners. And yeah, we managed to hold on to this P2, and what a fantastic result at the Monaco Grand Prix indeed.
Brilliant job, mate. That's a fantastic podium. Super driving, really strong pace. I'm really happy. Well deserved.
And not only that, but because of our 3 overtakes at the beginning of the race, we actually grabbed driver of the day as well. So yeah, a really lovely race. Really amazing.
Emphatic performance and a victory they can be proud of for many years to come.
Oh, here's that glitch. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's the one where they don't take the cars that are still driving on the track off the track before they start doing the podium ceremony.
You're never going to get anywhere. When you hit that sweet spot of having both an excellent driver and an incredible car, that's when you see results like those we witnessed today.
Our winning drivers are on their way to the podium right now. It's been a fantastic race for McLaren, that's for sure. And no doubt, they'll be celebrating tonight.
Well, they might be celebrating tonight, but I'm sure they won't be celebrating quite as hard as me, who I have now equaled my best ever result in a modern F1 game on Monaco. I've never won here, and I now have a P2 for the second time ever. Since F1 2018, I think was the last time I got on the podium in Monaco. So yeah, I'm pretty chuffed with that, to be honest. And yeah, I'll definitely be thinking about this for a long time to come.
Driver standings have changed. Robinson takes over the lead of the Drivers' Championship. Well, after an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
I have to give it to Robinson. There was a lot going on all down the field, but they were the only one who I really felt maximised their potential.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. Ferrari continue to extend the gap at the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. I'm equal parts exhausted and elated with this weekend of Formula One, so be sure to join us for the next one.
Wow, I can't believe that. We actually have regained the lead of the championship because we were just far enough ahead of Norris after he had that DNF in Spain, to the point that his win could not contain us from shooting back up to the top of the table. Leclerc falls from P1 to P3, and we also move ahead of Red Bull in the Constructors as a result of that race. So that's wonderful to see, and maybe we can hold on to that for a little while longer. Only 2 teams have yet to get off the mark, Aston Martin, as you might expect, and one that is a little bit surprising, perhaps, given that their position in the performance index is Alfa Romeo. They're the 6th fastest car on paper, ahead of us even, and yeah, they haven't scored any points this season. So perhaps they need to review their driver pairing. Obviously, historically, they had Bottas and Zhou in the first season, and that was a pretty strong driver pairing. But now Bottas has retired to make way for Schwartzman at that team, and then Zhou moved to Haas in the wake of Magnussen replacing Vettel at Aston Martin following his retirement. So now they've got 2 rookies at Alfa Romeo. Well, actually, Schwartzman is far from a rookie, and to be fair, Lundgaard had already done a half a season in the sport by that point as well. So yeah, they both had prior experience in Formula One, both at my team before they joined Alfa Romeo. So it's perhaps a little bit surprising to see that they're still not managing to really get anything done in that car that should be sort of challenging on the fringes of the points. I feel like they're barely making it into Q2 even, and even on the occasions when they do, they can't seem to really do anything with a strong grid position. It feels like they're always falling down the order rather than moving up the order. I'm sure that they will eventually grab points at some point during this season, but it just remains to be seen when that is going to be. I'm hoping the same for Fittipaldi will come true at some point as well. I think he has the potential to get into the points in this car at some point. Obviously, I need to improve my personnel facilities. I keep talking about that, but there are other priorities for us at the time being, such as improving our our ability to develop our car by improving some of the facilities that we've got at the moment. Now that we kind of got there with aero, it's going to be chassis, then engine. We're going to see if we can maybe do chassis by the end of the season. If not, then definitely when the end of the season rolls around and we've got that money from wherever we finish in the constructors, that's when we can, you know, really drive that home. I think we've actually already hit our sponsor target of achieving 100 points this season, so that's pretty good. It means that we don't really have to worry too much about what happens for the rest of the season, especially because I don't think we can compete with the top 4 teams as well. As long as we can consolidate a few more points over the course of the season to make sure we finish ahead of Alpine, I think we're in a really strong position in this season, actually. You know, a P5 finish, meeting a difficult sponsor objective, as long as we keep meeting our sponsor bonuses over the course of the season, I think Fittipaldi should want to stay at the team. He signed with us technically when we were the worst car on the grid, and now we're doing a lot better than that. So yeah, I'd like to see that happen, but you know, we'll never know until the negotiations come on. But anyway, that is going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, please make sure you like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next one.